rundown.
So, hop, skip and a jump with no carbon footprint. Let's go over and join Davis Fang in Sydney, Australia. Hello to you.
Hello, hello. Very glad to be back. And before we start, I would just like to wish David, your mum, a very, very happy 80th birthday.
Oh, that's
Pauline
very
is
sweet.
80 today. And I'm sure she's very proud of her son.
Well, it's Tuesday, but yeah, that's really sweet of you. Thank you very much indeed. And I'm very excited because I'm off to see Mum and the rest of the family the minute that we finish this. So thank you very much indeed, Davis. Now, don't tell me, should we talk about phones?
Yes, let's do that, because
we haven't done that
Tuesday,
for a while, so come on.
Tuesday was the big day. After months of speculation, now of course we've covered over here, the iPhone 15 event was finally here. So I got up at 3 a.m. to watch the live stream, and it was all awfully exciting. So to make it even more exciting, I think we should play a little bit of a game. Let's compare the rumored leaks that we've been talking about over the past few months compared to what was actually revealed. Does that sound fun?
Oh, it sounds like the most exciting game Renee's ever played.
Okay, so let's talk about the iPhone 15,
snap.
the standard model first.
Yes.
So this is the mainstream model. Probably we predicted that it would have a similar to design to the previous model, the 14, but with slightly curved edges. And I'm glad to say that, yes, that's true. That happened. We got basically the same design, but with slightly curved edges on the back to make it more comfortable to hold.
Lovely.
How exciting is that?
Very, very lovely.
We also got the dynamic island from last year's Pro model. So they replaced the notch that we've been seeing for the past 6 years with the dynamic island, which is the cutout around the selfie camera and stuff like that. So you get features like you can have your little timer on the top over there. So we're starting to see last year's Pro features come into the
Sorry,
which is great.
No, what?
It's
No,
that
Renee,
bit.
could you just explain what a dynamic island is again?
So, you know, on your older iPhone, you've got a notch, a little cutout at the top of your phone.
Oh, at the top. Oh, you are right. Oh, sorry.
you.
Right, yes.
So they've replaced this with a little hole in the screen instead of a notch.
Wow, that's groundbreaking.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we've got more exciting things like we predicted that USB-C would come,
Yes.
albeit with slower USB 2
And this
speeds,
is because
thanks
of an
to the
EU regulation.
Yes, that's very true. And we did see that. Apple is finally given into the EU's recommendations. And also, the biggest thing, the thing I was excited for, were color match cables. We saw rumors that the cables would be color matched to the color of your phone. Like, you know, a pink phone will come with a pink cable. And unfortunately, we did not get that.
Oh,
and that's
travesty.
absolutely tragic.
You need to get out
I was
more, Davis.
bawling.
David, Renee says you need a hobby.
This is my hobby.
Oh, right, okay.
Let's move on to the iPhone 15 Pro, which is the more exciting release. This was going to be the biggest iPhone update in years, and I think it was, because what we got was the predicted slightly curved titanium body. We love titanium, right? It's lighter than stainless steel, which means it's 20 grams lighter than the previous phone, which is awfully exciting. And beyond that, we also got the action button, which replaced the mute switch. That was a prediction that came true. And we did predict, though, that the USB-C port.
I mean,
on the Pro
honestly,
version,
I'm containing myself. What, with an action button and a dynamic island? I mean, really?
Yeah. We predicted that the USB-C port would have Thunderbolt speeds. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. It's slightly slower at USB 3, but that's still pretty fast. But this is probably what we're interested in. We thought that there was going to be a price hike. So do you want to guess if that happened or not?
Yes.
I'm going for no.
Well, Renee, for once you are right, because
well
in the
done.
UK at least, it's up to £150 cheaper than last year's model, which is incredible.
Yeah, well,
So
that's
the
interesting.
cheapest model.
But I assume that's to do with them realising that actually these prices are just deeply unaffordable, aren't they?
In the US, at least, the prices remain the same for the past 6 years despite inflation. And I think it's because of the rising value of the pound that we've seen these price decreases in the UK. So it's $7.99 for the cheapest one and $15.99 for the top in line version. But because this is due to exchange rates, unfortunately, in Australia, for me, there have been price increases. So the model I'm getting, which obviously is the most expensive one, is $300 more than last year's. for the one Australian viewer.
Why don't you just have a nice holiday instead?
I've had too many holidays this year. You know
I
that.
saw the pictures, actually.
And finally, the Apple Watch Series 9. We predicted it was going to be a very boring update, and that's true. It's got a new processor, but most interestingly, there's a new double tap gesture. So just say you're rock climbing and you get a notification, but you can't, spare a hand to press on your watch. What you can do now is just double tap with your fingers, and it will select that option, which is very fun.
How do you double tap if you're rock climbing?
Well, you have to release one hand, but I'll assume that the other hand's still up there. You just double tap with your two fingers. That's sort of similar to.
Look, if I'm climbing a rock, I've got more important things on my mind than to read text, like staying alive.
Right,
you
need to respond to your messages.
Oh yeah, right. Can we move on to the iPhone 12?
Yes, let's do that. I can't believe we're talking about the iPhone 12, but here we are.
But there's a reason we're talking about this, isn't there?
A French regulator has ordered Apple to stop sales of the recently discontinued iPhone 12, which is very helpful, due to concerns about radiation levels.
Bit late.
Yeah, a bit late. France's radiation watchdog said that the absorption rate, or SAR, was higher than the legal amount. So SAR measures the radio frequency energy absorbed by the body from the source. It does not reflect typical use, so is obviously in the extreme use case. The EU limits 4 watts per kilogram, but the iPhone 12 they tested recently is 5.7. And this has caused a bit of a domino effect. Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, they're all investigating. Italy have asked Apple for an update, and Apple, obviously being Apple, contested the findings at first, but now they're going to create a software update to solve the issues. It turns out that when the iPhone 12 came out, it was under the limit, but with successive updates, it's slowly been rising for a mystery reason.
Is it just the 12 then? So what about people like me who are still on an 11?
Yeah, it's just the 12. So if you're on an 11, you're not affected, luckily. But however, it must be said that even with being over the legal limit in the EU, it's still well under the level where harm can be done. So there's no reason to worry at all.
Davis, let me just pause you there. We'll have a quick break, but because Renee's so excited by everything that's going on, and we'll get you back after the break. Stay where you are. This is TalkTV. Welcome back to the final part of Weekend Breakfast. The time 9:46 now on Sunday, September the 17th. Let's skip back to Sydney, Australia. Davis Fang is there. Davis, you'll like this one. Jamie says, I still use an iPhone 4. Shame they stopped WhatsApp working on it, though. iPhone 4, you must be horrified.
4, gosh. I've actually got one somewhere back there, but yeah, I'm surprised it's even working, to be fair.
Well, I was going to say, if mine had been working, my 7 that I upgraded to the 11 with, I'd still be using that. I changed my phone when it no longer functions as a phone.
That's exactly when I changed mine, because basically it wouldn't work, so I then got another one.
Yes, the good thing with Apple, though, is that Apple is updating their phones roughly for 6 years. So you do get all of the latest features for an extended amount of time, as opposed to a lot of Android makers, which only update their phones for a few years, and then you're sort of, out of luck.
So there's a really interesting one from Nick Moore in Leicestershire saying, why do we never hear the green activists moaning about the throwaway society that legitimises the disposability of phones and the environmental harm that chucking millions of them away every year causes? Is this another example of our globalist masters profiteering from the peasants they secretly despise?
Well,
it's a great point.
Really good point, and we don't hear about the green activists talking about the lithium that needs to be mined by children in order to
make
get
their electric cars. I won't ask you to comment on that, Davis, unless you want to.
No, there are obviously companies that do attempt to extend the lifespan of mobile phones, but we've got to remember, just a few years ago, a smartphone like the iPhone 4 was only expected to last 1 or 2 years, really. It got like 3 years worth of updates, and then you were supposed to upgrade to the next one. With the latest iPhones and even Samsung and Pixel devices, you're getting 4 or 5 or even longer years worth of updates. So realistically, you could use your phone for longer. And there are repairability options now too. So I think the industry is moving in a positive direction there.
And rightly so. Let's move on. This is a fascinating story because many of us, if we're going to a search engine, it's even become its own word, hasn't it? To Google something. So people tend to go to Google. That's not what young people are doing, is it?
No, I think this trend has been happening for a few years now, but now it's really sort of reached the ceiling. Because for Gen Z, TikTok is sort of the new Google. More and more young people, when searching for a product, when they're looking for a restaurant, when they're looking for attractions nearby, when they're traveling, they're turning to TikTok to discover information, to use as their search engine. And they're saying, basically, on TikTok, the results feel more authentic. Instead of seeing some professionally shot photos of a restaurant and some seemingly AI-generated 5-star reviews, and what you get is the first person's perspective, a real perspective of how it was like to dine at that restaurant and their opinions of the food and so on. This is something that Google has noticed. In one of their studies, 40% of young people are using TikTok or Instagram to find a restaurant, not Google itself. So how they're responding is that Google's indexing TikTok videos in their search results to mixed results. But unfortunately, there is a problem. On social media, misinformation is rife. Anyone can go on a social media platform and say anything they want, and a lot of people will believe it. A big issue is dietary information, especially. It's a real problem. This is an issue on all social media platforms. On X/Twitter, readers can add community notes to add context. On YouTube, they're verifying health workers' videos in the UK at least, so you know it's coming from an expert. TikTok, they're choosing a different direction because they're integrating with Wikipedia. Yep, so if you search something on TikTok now, along with the standard video results, you will get snippets from Wikipedia to add context. This is a feature that's been around for a few months, but it's just beginning to be rolled out. Honestly, this is a little bit inelegant to me, perhaps to battle misinformation on the platform, a Twitter-style community notes feature could be better, but at least they're noticing an issue. Then they're making some sort of.
I mean, I wouldn't use Google at all. I use something like OpenTable so that I actually go and
for a restaurant
around me. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, good. Right, now on to my favourite story of the week. This is about a flying car.
Yes, because we're going to the Detroit Auto Show. It's not something that we'd usually talk about, but they revealed something special. The Aleph Model A. It's not just a normal flying car, because it's also
a normal
electric.
Flying car? How many flying cars do you know?
The thing is, flying cars, it's a genre that comes in and out. I feel like almost every year there's a new flying car. It's a genre that's been littered with failures.
Every year you've seen a flying car?
Pretty much.
I've got the
but there's a
7.
new one that comes out.
Right, tell us about this flying car.
Do you remember the Mola Sky car, for example? That was a vertical takeoff flying car. It was in development for 50 years under Paul Mola. He chewed through $1 million worth of development and never achieved flight. There's a company called Aeromobil in Slovakia that showed a lot of promise 10 years ago, but it's recently closed down as well. But Aleph claims to be different because it's not a normal flying car. It's got no wings. It's got nothing that folds out. It looks sleek. It looks kind of beautiful. Not a rocket, it's electric. It's got propellers inside the car underneath mesh body panels. So it sort of looks like a giant drone. The cockpit inside the mesh unit, it's sort of in a gyroscope, always remains level. And when it flies, the propeller body revolves around the cockpit. It's 90 degrees. So it sort of looks like a flying wall with propellers. It's got 200 miles of range when on the road, 100 miles in the air. The FAA has approved it for special airworthiness certification, which means that they can use it for development. They have claimed that there have been successful tests, but I couldn't find any videos on the internet. And I just think that this is an example. I think this is an example of another sort of tech company coming out with a flying car, but it's a market that nobody really wants. Otherwise, I feel like a successful version would have come out by now.
No, we all want. Rennie wants a flying car. I want a flying car.
Much rather have a flying car than a folding phone.
I agree.
But realistically,
yes. Realistically,
do you actually want one?
Yes.
The logistics.
Really?
Really? Yes.
I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah.
You should come and drive in London, Davis. You would want a flying car.
Davis, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Davis Fang there in Sydney, Australia. And that was today's Tech Rundown.
Tech Rundown.
That boy's priorities are completely all over the shop, aren't they? Folding phones. No, we want a flying car.
When he's 21, he'll change his mind.
You know, when he's not. He's much older than that, you know. And he just wears well. Fred is in.